After we moved into a new condominium, a neighbor decided that people like us shouldn't live there. She tried to change the building's rules, spread gossip, and even persuaded the landlord to evict us. But when the residents' meeting took place, she was publicly humiliated. Moving to a new condominium should be easy, right? New surroundings, new opportunities, new neighbors, and that's exactly where the problem began. From day one, it was clear that someone didn't like our arrival. The neighbor next door was the kind of person who seemed born to make other people's lives hell. You know, the kind of person who is always involved in condo meetings, who thinks she's in charge of everything and everyone? Well, that was her, the queen of the neighborhood. On the first day, while we were unloading the move, she showed up like she meant business. She got close, looked at the boxes, gave a fake smile, and let loose. "So, are you staying long?" I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It was my house. What did she mean by that? Little did I know that it was a warning. The days passed and things started to get strange. First, the crooked looks. Then, the whispering among the other residents whenever we passed by. And then, the complaints started. Suddenly, everything we did was a nuisance. Our car was parked in the wrong place. Our Christmas decoration was too exaggerated. It was literally a flasher on the door. Even our dog, who didn't even bark properly, became a problem. She clearly wanted us to leave. But the final blow came in the form of an official document from the condominium, a notice saying that the management was reviewing the housing rules, new rules, requiring residents to have a suitable profile in order to maintain the condominium standards. And guess who suggested these rules? That's when I realized she was trying to kick us out. But if she thought that was going to happen without a fight, she was very wrong. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole story, it's that some people think they run the world. They make up their own rules, invent problems out of thin air, and simply refuse to accept that they don't have all that power. And the neighbor here was exactly that kind of person. After I received the notice from the condominium about the revision of the rules, I decided to investigate. After all, who decides to change the rules of a place out of the blue? I spoke to one of the management staff, and after a lot of chatting, he gave me some information that I already suspected. The woman who lived next door was the one who proposed the changes. The reason? According to her, it was necessary to ensure that only people with the right profile continue to live there. The right profile. Ah, what a coincidence, just after we moved in. It didn't take long for me to realize that she was campaigning to evict us. Suddenly, the neighbors who used to greet us started avoiding us. The dirty looks increased. The conversation stopped whenever we walked past. It was obvious that she was spreading rumors, but what made me realize that she wasn't going to stop until she got what she wanted was the petition. That's right, she created a document to collect signatures, demanding that stricter rules be implemented. And the best part? Her justification was that this would help keep the condominium exclusive and problem-free. Problems, otherwise known as us. The icing on the cake came one day when I came home and saw two neighbors signing the paper on her door. I stood there, watching the scene with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Did this woman really think she was going to throw us out as if we were trespassers? And then she saw me, and she smiled. "I hope you don't take it personally," she said, in that fake voice of someone who thinks she's being kind. "We just want to keep the condominium proper. I took a deep breath, because if I said what was on my mind at that moment, the discussion would be on the news. But in that instant, I made a decision. If she wanted war, then war she would have. If this woman thought she was going to kick me out of my own home, she was about to find out that I wasn't the type to take insults lying down. After seeing her petition gain momentum, I realized that I needed to act, and fast. The first step was to understand exactly what she was up to. I went to the landlord, who already knew me and knew that I had never caused any problems. He greeted me with a tired look on his face. Clearly, he had had enough of his neighbor. "Man, you have no idea what this woman gets up to," he said, shaking his head. "Ever since she joined the council, she's been trying to change everything as if she owned the place." That's exactly what I needed to hear. She already had a history of giving other residents hell. And the best part? Nobody really liked her, which gave me the best possible idea. If she wanted to bring me down with a petition, I'd do the same to her. The next day, I started talking to other neighbors who had already fallen victim to her crazy antics. I discovered some absurd stories. She tried to ban a couple from hanging a hammock on their balcony because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing. She wanted to demand that everyone follow a specific pattern of curtains in the window. She had a fight with a family because she thought their car didn't fit in with the condominium. In other words, it wasn't just me. So I did what any sensible person would do. I created a second petition. This time, it wasn't to change the condo rules. It was to get her off the board. I went door to door, talking, listening to complaints, and by the end of the day, I had twice as many signatures as she had. And then I made a point of delivering the document right in front of her. The woman saw me talking to the landlord and marched up to us, snorting like a bull about to charge. "What's going on here?" I smiled calmly. "Oh, nothing much. I'm just delivering a petition. It seems the residents don't want you on the council anymore." The shock on her face was worth every second of the effort. She took the paper from the manager's hands, read it, and for a moment, looked like she was going to faint. And in that instant, I knew. The war was won. Her silence lasted a few seconds, but the anger on her face came instantly. The woman held the paper so tightly that it looked like she was going to tear it in half. She read it over and over again, as if it were a bad joke, but it wasn't. It was real, and that's when she lost control. "This is absurd," she shouted, staring at the landlord as if he was going to throw the document away immediately. "You can't just take me away." The landlord, who was already tired of her crazy antics, didn't even blink. "Yes, you can," he replied simply. The shock on her face was something else. For the first time, she seemed to realize that she wasn't untouchable. But it wasn't over yet. The landlord organized an extraordinary condominium meeting to discuss the petition. And that's when her humiliation reached another level. The meeting room was packed. Even residents who never participate in these things showed up. It was as if everyone had come to watch the moment when the neighborhood dictator finally fell. The woman tried to defend herself. Oh, how she tried. "Everything I do is for the good of the condominium," she said, looking around, trying to find support. "I just want to keep order." No one agreed. On the contrary, the residents finally had a chance to speak. One couple told of the day she tried to force them to change the color of their front door. Another neighbor recalled the time she argued with him because she thought his dog made too much noise. He didn't even have a dog. One lady said that she tried to stop her grandchildren from playing in the garden because children make too much mess. With each new complaint, her face turned redder. And then came the final blow. The liquidator stood up, holding the document. Based on the number of signatures and the formal complaints, the board decided that the lady would be removed from office immediately. That was the end of it. The woman's eyes widened. She opened her mouth to say something, but she couldn't. Nothing she could say would change the fact that no one there wanted to hear her voice anymore. And so, after years of trying to run the condominium, she finally lost her power. But the best part? There was one more surprise waiting for her. If the woman was already furious at being kicked off the board, she had no idea what was still to come. After the meeting, the gossip went faster than a department store sale. She became the talk of the town. For years, she had reigned supreme, imposing absurd rules and overseeing the lives of others as if she had been elected governor of the neighborhood. Now, no one was afraid of her. In the days that followed, it was as if the condominium had undergone an energetic renewal. People began to feel freer. The couple from the Blue House finally hung their hammock on the balcony. The gentleman from Block C parked his car in the space he always used without being disturbed. And even the children seemed to run and play more freely. It was as if an invisible weight had been lifted from everyone's shoulders. And the woman? Well, she disappeared. Not literally, of course, but her overbearing presence was gone. Before, she used to make a point of going out into the street every day, monitoring any movement that might be grounds for a ridiculous new rule. Now, there was barely a shadow of her on the sidewalk. Perhaps she had realized that, without the title of Queen of the Condominium, she was just another ordinary resident. But the real icing on the cake came when I received an unexpected message from the property manager. "Come by the administration. I think you'll like what I have to tell you." Curious, I went there without knowing exactly what to expect. When I entered, he was holding a piece of paper, shaking his head with an almost evil smile on his face. "Guess who got a ticket?" I took the document, and as soon as I read it, I felt a wave of pure satisfaction. She had been fined $500 for misusing the condominium rules. In other words, as well as losing her power, she would have to pay for years of abuse. The reason listed on the fine was even better: attempted manipulation of rules for self-interest. All the false complaints, the unfounded denunciations, and the fraudulent petition were considered abuse of authority by the board. In the end, the condominium decided that it had connived with her enough and decided to take action. It was poetic. For years, she had given everyone hell by trying to impose new rules. Now, it was precisely one of the condominium's own rules that turned against her. I left the administration office with a smile on my face, and, as if fate had been working overtime to give me this gift, I bumped into her in the corridor. Her expression said it all. For the first time, she didn't have that arrogant attitude. There was no more certainty in her gaze, nor that tone of superiority she carried in every word. She seemed smaller, almost unrecognizable. She looked at the ticket in my hand and instantly understood what had happened. This time, there were no excuses, no way out. "Are you happy now?" she murmured, without the same firmness as before. I just smiled, because any answer would have been unnecessary. Fate had already answered for me. Over the next few months, her name fell into oblivion. With no power, no allies, and no credibility, she simply ceased to be relevant. She no longer appeared at meetings, was no longer mentioned in discussions in the condominium group, and, most importantly, no longer bothered anyone. But the real breakthrough came a while later, when rumors began to circulate that she was selling the house. It seems that, without absolute control over the condominium, living there no longer made much sense to her, and so, without a fuss, she moved out. There were no goodbyes, no ceremonies. One morning, a moving company showed up in front of the house, loaded up the furniture, and, when night fell, she no longer lived there. Well, I stayed in the same place, exactly where she tried to throw me out. In the end, she was the one who had to leave. Have you ever had to deal with someone like that? That person who thinks they have authority over everything and everyone, even though they don't? If you've ever been in a similar situation, let us know in the comments. Let's see who had the worst experience. And if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like it. It helps a lot and makes us bring you even more insane stories like this one. Want more unbelievable shenanigans? Click on the card right now and come marathon. See you in the next video.